Hey everybody, and welcome to the second episode of Drunk Finance, a YouTube series where I get drunk and talk about money shit. Today's question comes from almost everyone, and that question is, what the fuck do I do with my 401k? So, today I'm going to tell you what the fuck you do with your 401k, keeping in mind, not an investment professional. Don't take my advice because some drunkle on the internet told you to do something. That's a really bad decision. So now I think is probably a great time to have a small smackerel because it turns out that this is like vodka, but it tastes like pie. So probably going to sleep at work tonight. Okay, so what the fuck do I do with my 401k? I would argue there are 5 things that you need to know, and I'm going to go through them one by one. And between each one, I'm going to take a shot. I wrote them all down on a Post-it note so that I would be able to remember 3, 4, and 5. Number 1, know your risk tolerance. So when I say risk tolerance, I'm really talking about 2 things. I'm talking about ability to take risk, and I'm talking about willingness to take risk. So ability to take risk is largely a function of when you're planning to retire. So for example, if you're like me and you are 27 years old, you've probably got a solid 40 years. Odds are good the stock market's going up. You don't have to worry about preserving your money. You can really just let it sit in there for 40 years and it'll be fine. But starting out now, you can actually afford to take a lot of risk because you don't need that money very soon. Part 2 to that is a little bit more subjective, and that's willingness to take risk. So if you're the kind of person who is really scared about the markets, God forbid if you fucking read the news, which don't read the news. Like, don't read this election news cycle shit. Don't put it in your brain. But if you do that and you follow the markets and you're constantly worried about what's going to happen to your money and you find yourself checking your statements, put it into something a little bit more conservative. Don't be super aggressive with it. But obviously it's a function of those 2 things. So that's number 1, is know your risk tolerance. These shots are going to get smaller and smaller. This is a sizable tiny pot. Number 2, choose your investments wisely. And by wisely, what I really mean is according to that risk tolerance we just talked about. So if you decided ultimately you're a conservative investor, whether that means you're retiring really soon or you're afraid of the markets, put yourself in some conservative investments. If you are an aggressive investor, put yourself in some aggressive investments. Point being, your investment should really match your risk tolerance. And honestly, when you sign up for a 401k through your work or whatever it is, through your real job, because now you're a goddamn adult and you have to learn about finance, so fuck you, they will give you that information. So all of the potential holdings, they'll give you a list of everything that you could potentially invest in by being a part of your company's 401k program, and there'll usually be some sort of scale to it. Choose the number of bloops that corresponds to your comfort level and risk tolerance. What? Dribbling on into this little jar. Oh God. Smaller shots from here on out. All right. Number 3. So we talked about risk tolerance. We talked about choosing your investment wisely. Number 3 is minimize your fees. Everything that you can put in your 401k will have some sort of fee associated with it. And the fee is usually dependent upon the complexity of what they're managing. If you are investing in a mutual fund that picks individual stocks, then you are paying a higher fee because that manager who manages the mutual fund is a real live human who has a whole other team of human analysts behind them doing individual stock research and weighing the pros and cons of each. My unprofessional and moonshine-infused advice to you would be to pay very, very close attention to the fees. If, for example, you are paying over 1% in fees, That means that every time you have $100, that's going to be cut back down to 99. They're going to take money out of your account in order to pay those managers who are picking stocks for you. That's called active management. The alternative to that is what's called passive management. Passively managed funds or index funds tend to be a lot cheaper than actively managed funds or mutual funds. That's number 3, minimize your fees. I said this was going to be smaller, but it's not. Okay, so number 4, maximize your employer match. Usually what will happen when you sign up for a 401k is they will give you some sort of incentive to do so. Your employer will offer what's called a match. So they'll say, if you put in 3% of your salary, we're going to match the amount. When I say maximize the match, what I mean is if your employer is going to match you up to 3% and you only put in 2%, you are actually leaving money on the table. Because what you don't want to do is give up on that, small amount, even if it's only $500 or $1,000. Don't give up on that money because it will be there for you. Remember, birds and bees of finance. Get you all the money you can, and also maybe your employer's a dick and they deserve to give you more free money than that, but they won't. So at least fucking take advantage of the free money that you're gonna get. So maximize your match. Number 5. Do not fucking worry about your 401k. This is the best advice I could possibly give you in the entire world. Typically, what happens when you get your 401k up and running, you choose your investments, they put you in there and all that good shit. They'll send you a quarterly statement. So every 90 days, you'll get something in the mail that says, okay, here's your 401k. Usually there'll be some little pie chart at the top that says, you've got this percent in equities. You've got this percent in fixed income or bonds or treasuries or some other sort of conservative investment. Now here are all of the individual securities you own. So you own this index fund and this other index fund and this other index fund because you don't want to fucking pay mutual fund fees. And also this bond fund for reasons because you're a little scared of the market. That's cool. I don't judge. And then it will say, here's how much dollars, here's how many dollars, here's the amount of dollars that you have in your 401k. And then it will say, here's the percent return you made. So maybe it's like 6%. Maybe the market was like, okay. Or actually 6% a quarter. That would be bitchin'. You let me know what that investment is and I will put my money in it. It will give you all this information about your account. In my opinion, one of the more damaging things you can do is worry about that money and what it's doing. The reason for that is because when you read your statements too frequently, it is a goddamn fact that you are more liable to make poor life choices, like I am making now with this moonshine. But worse, because this moonshine isn't going to come back to haunt me in 40 years when I want to fucking retire. When I fucking retire, I will be drinking infinitely more of this moonshine because I will be able to afford it because I planned early. So remember at the beginning of this, I said, hey, if you're retiring in 40 years, you can stand and take a little bit more risk. If you read your statements and figure out that the market went down and saw that your investment went down and you're worried about the 401k going down, don't fucking worry about it. Like seriously, you are retiring in 40 years. You won't even have hair then. You'll be all fucking crusty, like your teeth will be falling out. Like you don't need to worry about what the S&P 500 is doing. It will be fine. If you read your statements, you will stress out unnecessarily over something that is very far in your time horizon. So, that's it. Thank you guys for watching. I'm probably going to go pass out at my desk. Probably going to take one more shot for good measure. Yeah, retirement. It's like a big jar and a little jar, like they're jar friends. Like this jar is the baby of this jar. Whatever.